My dear, sit close, let me tell you a story, not of fairy tales and magic, but of life the way it truly is, rough, painful, yet filled with lessons that outshine the darkest nights. Some stories are sweet as honey, others bitter as medicine, but every story carries truth if you are patient enough to listen. This is the story of a family, my family, and the truths I learned when life tried its hardest to bury me. We lived in a small town, quiet and humble, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody, and gossip traveled faster than the wind. My husband, God rest his soul, passed away too soon, leaving me to raise two children, Jason, my eldest, and Lily, my youngest. They were as different as fire and water. Jason was ambitious, always chasing more. Even as a boy, his eyes sparkled when he saw shiny cars or big houses. He wanted a life larger than the one we had. Lily, on the other hand, was gentle. She had a heart like fresh bread, warm, soft, nourishing. She sacrificed dreams of her own, so that Jason might have his chance to rise. I worked in the kitchen of a local diner. The pay was small, the hours long, but it kept food on the table and shoes on their feet. And when you're a mother, that's enough. Or so I thought. Jason, as he grew, began to despise our life. He'd come home with sharp words. Why do we live in this shack? Why don't you try harder? Why can't we be like the rich families? I'd remind him gently, son, riches aren't measured in coins, but in the hands that hold you when you re-weaked. Don't forget that. But he never listened. When he was old enough, Jason left for the city. He said he'd find work, make something of himself. I was proud and afraid all at once. Before he left, Lily handed him a small packet of food she had prepared. For the road, she said with a smile. He barely thanked her, already dreaming of the life ahead. Time passed. Letters came, then money. Jason was rising. Good job, fine clothes, new friends. Every envelope was proof that his ambition was paying off. Lily and I would sit by the fire, reading his words aloud, even when they stung with arrogance. He'd write things like, "One day I'll move you out of that rotten house." I tried to take it as care, but it felt more like shame. Lily, sweet girl, never complained. She worked at the library, cared for me, and kept the home warm. I'd often tell her, "Don't sacrifice too much, child. Your dreams matter too." But she'd smile and say, "Mama, family is my dream." And so the years rolled on. Then came the turning point. Jason returned, not as the boy who had left, but as a man dressed in expensive suits, carrying gifts that sparkled and shone. The neighbors gathered, whispering admiration. "Look at him, the successful son. He's done so well." At first, I was proud. He bought us new furniture, filled the pantry, even spoke of buying a larger house. But something about him had changed. His eyes no longer rested on us. With warmth they scanned, judged, calculated. He was not visiting us, he was inspecting us. That night, after dinner, Jason sat me down. His words came sharp, like knives wrapped in silk. Mama, this old house is dragging us down. I've found a bigger place. Better neighborhood, better people. Pack your things, we're moving. I looked around at the home where I'd raised them, where my husband's laughter still lived in the walls, where Lily's first steps had echoed on the floorboards. My throat tightened. This is our home, Jason. A bigger house won't make us happier. He leaned forward, impatience flashing in his eyes. Mama, you don't understand. People respect success. Don't you want respect? Respect. That word sat heavy on my chest. Respect built on walls and roofs is a fragile thing, but Jason couldn't see that. Lily spoke softly. Brother, Mama's right. Home isn't about size, it's about love. Jason turned on her with a glare so sharp it cut the room in two. What do you know? You've wasted your life here in this dusty town. You're just jealous because I made it out and you didn't. Lily's lips trembled, but she said nothing. My heart broke for her. From that moment, the distance between us grew wider. Jason visited less, but when he did, it was with more demands, more criticisms. He began speaking of investments, of how I should sell the house to fund his ventures. He painted pictures of wealth so grand they blinded him to the truth. I refused. Again and again, I refused, until one day I woke to find my bank account nearly empty, my savings gone. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then I found the paperwork, the forged signature, the transfers. Jason had taken everything. My knees buckled, the world spun. How could my own flesh and blood do this? When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He stood tall, arrogance dripping from his words. I borrowed it. I'll pay you back once the deal goes through. Don't be dramatic. Borrowed. I whispered, you stole from your own mother. He rolled his eyes. You'll thank me when we're rich. It was then I realized Di hadn't lost my money. I had lost my son. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. Nights became endless rivers of tears. Lily held me, whispering comfort, but I could feel her own heartbreak. She had loved her brother too, believed in him, defended him, and now he had shattered us both. But life wasn't done teaching me its cruel lessons. Not long after, I collapsed while cooking at the diner. My heart, worn thin from years of toil and worry, could bear no more. The doctor's words were heavy. You must rest. No more work. Rest. How does a woman rest when the bills are unpaid, when the roof leaks, when her son has emptied her savings? I was forced to leave my job. The diner, my second home, closed its doors behind me, and I returned to our little house, unsure of how we would survive. Jason, he was nowhere. My calls went unanswered, my letters ignored. He had taken what he wanted and disappeared into his glittering world. The neighbors began to whisper again, but now their words were daggers. Her son made it big, yet look at her struggling. What kind of mother raises a child who abandons her? Shame wrapped around me like chains. I felt invisible, discarded, erased. One night, as I sat alone in the dark, I heard Lily moving quietly in her room. I peeked in. She was sewing by candlelight, her eyes strained, her hands trembling with exhaustion. "Child," I whispered, "what are you doing?" She looked up, tears shining. "Mama, I can't let you carry this alone. I'll take extra work. I'll do whatever it takes." I sat beside her, took her hands in mine. "No, Lily, you've given enough. Too much. It's my burden." But deep down, I knew it was our burden now. Because Jason had left us with nothing but broken promises. And yet, in the quiet of that night, a small flame began to burn in me. A flame of resolve. If my own son could betray me, then I would learn to stand without him. If the world could erase me, then I would carve my truth into the stone of life itself. Because sometimes, my dear, the only way forward is through the fire. The weeks after my collapse were the hardest I've ever known. Days blurred into one another, the silence in the house so loud it pressed against my chest. Bills piled up, medicine bottles lined the counter, and still there was no word from Jason. But life, stubborn as it is, has a way of forcing you forward even when you want to stop. Lily found small jobs helping children with homework, mending clothes, shelving books after hours. She carried the weight of 2 lives on her shoulders, all while hiding her own pain behind tired smiles. Sometimes I'd hear her crying softly at night, her pillow catching the tears she didn't want me to see. It broke me, knowing my daughter was suffering for the sins of her brother. Then, one evening, when the sun bled orange across the sky, the front door creaked open, and there he was, Jason. At first, I thought my heart had betrayed me, that I was dreaming. He looked different. His sharp suits were gone, replaced by wrinkled clothes. His face was pale, his eyes restless. "Mama," he said, voice softer than I'd ever heard. I need help." I wanted to throw my arms around him, but the memory of empty bank accounts, of his cold dismissal, chained me to my chair. "You need help," my voice cracked. "Son, we needed help when you stole from us. We needed help when I lay in that hospital bed. Where were you then?" Jason lowered his head. "I made mistakes. Bad ones. The deal failed. The people I trusted turned on me. I lost everything." Lily stepped into the room, her hands clenched. "You didn't just lose everything, Jason. You threw us away too." His eyes darted to her, shame flickering across his face. "I didn't mean to. Her voice shook with anger. "You abandoned us. You left Mama to collapse, left me to scrape by. Don't say you didn't mean it." The room was heavy with silence. Finally, Jason whispered, "I know. I was blind. But please, I need a place to stay. Just until I get back on my feet." I studied him, my own heart warring between love and fury. This was my son, my flesh and blood. But this was also the man who had shattered us. "Stay," I said finally, though the word tasted like ash. "But hear me, well, trust is not given. It is earned." If you want a place in this home again, you'll have to build it brick by brick. Jason nodded, tears brimming. For the first time in years, I saw humility in his eyes. At first, he helped around the house, fixed the porch steps, even cooked dinner once. The neighbors gossiped, whispering about the prodigal son returned. Some admired him, others warned me, once a snake, always a snake. I didn't know who to believe. All I had was the ache in my chest and the hope that maybe, just maybe, my boy had changed. But change, my dear, is not built on hope alone. Soon, I noticed old habits creeping back. Jason would disappear for hours, return with excuses. His phone buzzed constantly, with calls he wouldn't answer in front of me. Money started going missing, small amounts at first, then larger. One night, I found him rifling through my drawer. He froze when he saw me. "Mama, it's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like." My voice trembled with fury. "Jason, do you take me for a fool?" He dropped his gaze, shame and defiance warring in his eyes. I just need a little more time. I'll fix everything, I swear." But I'd heard those words before. "Get out," I said, my voice breaking. "Until you learn the meaning of truth, you are no son of mine." Lily stood beside me, tears streaming down her face. "You've had enough chances, Jason, enough." He left that night, the door slamming behind him. And though my heart ached, I knew it was the right choice. Sometimes love must draw lines, even when it bleeds. Months passed. News trickled through the town. Jason had fallen deeper debts, shady deals, dangerous people. His pride had carried him to heights, and now it was dragging him into the pit. Then came the night that changed everything. I was sitting alone, the clock ticking past midnight, when headlights swept across the window. Moments later, a knock rattled the door. 2 officers stood there, hats in hand. "Ma'am," one said gently, "your son has been arrested." The world spun. My knees buckled, and I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. What did he do?" I whispered. "Fraud, embezzlement, forgery. He's looking at years, maybe decades." My breath caught. Fraud, embezzlement. The very sins he had practiced on his own family, now writ large against strangers. At the station, I saw him through the glass. My son, once so proud, now in shackles. His eyes met mine, full of fear and desperation. "Mama," he mouthed, "help me." But what help could I give? What mercy remained when trust had been shattered so completely? Lily stood beside me, her hand gripping mine. "We can't save him, Mama," she whispered. "Not this time." Tears blurred my vision. A mother's heart doesn't stop loving, even when broken. But I knew this was not my burden anymore. Jason had written his own sentence long before the law had. We walked away, his cries echoing behind us. The trial was swift. Witnesses spoke, evidence mounted, and Jason's empire of lies collapsed in the courtroom. The judge's gavel fell heavy, 7 years in state prison. As the officers led him away, Jason turned to me one last time. His lips trembled. "Mama, I'm sorry. I wanted to believe him. But apologies, like seeds, must be planted deep and watered with action." And Jason's soil was still dry, cracked from years of greed. The weeks after his sentencing were quiet, almost eerily so. But for the first time in years, I felt a strange peace settle over the house. The chaos was gone, replaced by silence. Painful, yes, but honest. Lily and I began to rebuild. We sold the old house, not because Jason had wanted it, but because it carried too many ghosts. With the little money we had, we bought a small cottage on the edge of town, humble, but ours. And in that cottage, we found a new rhythm. We planted a garden, cooked simple meals, read books by the fire. Neighbors began to visit again, offering help, sharing stories. Slowly, the chains of shame loosened. But no matter how far I tried to move forward, a mother's heart never truly lets go. At night, I dream of Jason as a little boy running through fields, laughter echoing, and I'd wake with tears on my cheeks, the memory of who he once was haunting me. Because that's the cruelest part of betrayal. It isn't the enemy that wounds you deepest. It's the one you once rocked to sleep, the one whose hands you once held. And yet, even in the darkest soil, seeds of truth begin to grow. That spring, the garden bloomed brighter than ever. Roses climbed the fence, tomatoes ripened on the vine, marigolds lined the walkway. Each flower, each leaf, was a reminder that life goes on, that beauty can grow even from broken ground. Neighbors would stop by, admiring the blooms. One elderly woman whispered, "You're stronger than most." To endure all this and still smile, it's a miracle. I shook my head gently. Not a miracle, just stubbornness. Stubbornness to rise when the world tries to bury you. Lily laughed softly at that. "Mama, you're the strongest woman I know, but I wasn't strong. Not really. I was just a mother, a widow, a woman who refused to let betrayal be the final word." And though Jason's choices had carved scars into our lives, I began to see the faint outline of a truth I had almost forgotten. Sometimes the fall is the only way a person learns how to rise. Prison changes a man. I know because I watched it change my son. At first, Jason wrote letters, sloppy apologies, begging me to forgive him, promising he'd be different. I read them, every one, but I did not reply. Words are easy when a man has nothing left. Then the tone of his letters shifted. The arrogance drained away. The last one I received, a year into his sentence, wasn't an apology at all. It was a memory. He wrote, "Mama, I remember when you made biscuits for me on my first day of school. I was scared, but you put one in my hand and told me, 'Don't worry, son. Everything hard starts soft, but if you're patient, it rises.' I didn't understand it then. I think I do now." That letter I folded and placed inside my Bible. For once, his words rang true. 7 years passed slow, like honey dripping from a spoon. And then one spring morning, the phone rang. "Mama," Jason's voice cracked through the line, "they're letting me out." I closed my eyes. I thought of the boy who once clung to my apron, the man who had betrayed me, and the prisoner who now spoke with regret. "Then come home," I said softly. Not because I had forgotten, but because mercy sometimes heals deeper than punishment. The day Jason returned, the street was blooming with dogwood trees. I stood on the porch, cane in one hand, Bible in the other. A taxi pulled up, and he stepped out slowly, thinner, grayer, but still my boy. He didn't smile, didn't rush into my arms. Instead, he lowered his head, tears already slipping down his cheeks. "Mama," he whispered, "I don't deserve to stand here." I placed my hand beneath his chin, lifted his face toward mine. "You're right," I said, "you don't deserve it. But grace isn't about what you deserve, it's about what you need. And son, you need grace." And he broke, he fell against me, sobbing like the child he once was. And I held him because even broken children still fit inside their mother's arms. For weeks, Jason stayed with me. He swept porches, carried groceries, fixed fences for neighbors. Some people crossed the street when they saw him. Others whispered "jailbird" behind his back. But he didn't fight it. He didn't lash out. He swallowed the shame and kept working. Slowly, the whispers softened. Slowly, nods replaced the stares. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he finally asked, "Mama, why didn't you press charges when you had the chance? Why didn't you let me rot for what I did to you?" I leaned back in my rocking chair, because punishment was already waiting for you. The law can lock away your body, but only life can teach a soul. And life had already taught me. I knew it would teach you too. His voice shook. "And what about you, Mama? Didn't I ruin your life?" I shook my head. "No, son. You reminded me of the truth, that a mother's love isn't about raising perfect children, it's about holding steady when they fall. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it can rewrite the ending." He stared at me, eyes wet. "Do you forgive me?" I squeezed his hand. "I forgave you the moment you betrayed me. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. Trust is built slowly, brick by brick, day by day." And he nodded, as though he finally understood. "The truth, my dear, is this. Children may betray you. Family may wound you deeper than any enemy ever could. But bitterness is a poison that kills the one who holds it. If I had clung to hate, I would have shriveled long before Jason's sentence ended. Instead, I chose differently. I chose to believe roots, no matter how scarred, can still hold firm. I chose to believe grace is stronger than greed. I chose to believe that, sometimes, the fall is the only way a man learns how to rise. Years passed in our little cottage. Tyler grew taller, his laughter filling the rooms Jason's silence once haunted. One evening, the boy asked me, "Grandma, do you ever regret it? Selling the house, living here?" Forgiving Dad after all he did. I thought long before answering. Then I shook my head. No, baby. Sometimes God plants us exactly where the lesson must be taught. If I had run, Jason might never have faced himself. If I had hidden, you would never have learned the strength you come from. And if I had given up, I'd never have discovered that peace blooms even in the soil of betrayal. Peace isn't a gift that falls into your lap. It's something you build, brick by steady brick, while the world tries to knock it down. I built mine on roses in the garden, on Sunday dinners, on whispered prayers. I built it on forgiveness, not because Jason deserved it, but because I deserved freedom. And forgiveness is freedom. It unchains you from bitterness, lets you walk forward lighter. Jason still carries his shame. I see it in his eyes when he avoids my gaze, hear it in the silence of his steps. Maybe he will carry it all his life. That is his burden, not mine. He once asked if there was any way to make it right. I told him the only way forward is to raise your son better than you were raised in that season of greed. Show him humility. Show him accountability. Show him what it costs to rebuild trust. Maybe one day he'll forgive you too. He nodded, didn't argue, didn't promise, just nodded. And I took that as enough. Sometimes neighbors ask, "How did you survive it all?" And I tell them the truth. I didn't just survive. I grew. Survival is only breathing. Growth is breathing deeper, freer, without fear that someone can snatch your air away. Tyler once said, "Grandma, you're the strongest person I know." I laughed and told him, "No, baby, I'm just the most stubborn. Strength is just stubbornness that refuses to quit." And he laughed too, but deep down he knew it was true. My story isn't just about betrayal. It's about wisdom, the wisdom that comes after. The wisdom that says, you can lose what you thought mattered and still find yourself richer than before. The wisdom that whispers, family isn't always defined by blood, but by the hands that hold you when you fall. The wisdom that reminds us, old age isn't weakness, it's clarity. The ability to look back and see not only wounds, but the healing too. I walk my garden now, and I see reminders everywhere. Roses remind me of fire that beauty grows even after burning. Tomatoes remind me of patience that good things ripen only when you wait. Marigolds remind me of protection, their scent keeps pests away, just as wisdom guards against bitterness. And Tyler, running barefoot between the rows, reminds me that no legacy is wasted when love is passed forward. So here is the greatest truth of all. They thought they buried me, but I was a seed. And seeds don't die in the dark. They rest. They gather strength. They prepare. And when the time is right, they break the ground, reach for the sun, and bloom in colors no one can ignore. So if ever you feel erased, discarded, forgotten, remember this: you are not finished. You are not weak. You are not gone. You are a seed, and the world has not yet seen your bloom. This is my wisdom. It is stubborn. unyielding, the kind of wisdom that rocks steady in its chair long after storms have passed, whispering to anyone who will listen. But they thought they buried me. But darling, I was only just beginning to grow.